I killed my husband with my bare hands. Not literally. Not yet. But in the fevered dreams that haunted me after the swap, I imagined it 1,000 times, his smug face twisting in shock as my fingers, calloused and unfamiliar, closed around his throat. The irony? Those hands weren't mine anymore. They belonged to Elena Vasquez, a broke immigrant janitor from the South Side whose life I'd stolen in a twist of fate crueler than any Greek tragedy. Or had I stolen it? No. That's the lie they wanted me to swallow. The truth was, they'd ripped mine away first. It started on a crisp October morning in 2023. The kind of day in Chicago where the wind off Lake Michigan bites like regret. I was Valentina Hale, 38, CEO of Hale Tech Innovations, a mid-sized firm specializing in neural interface prototypes that promised to revolutionize therapy for trauma victims. My life was the American dream on steroids, a $3.5 million glass-walled mansion in Lincoln Park. 2 kids, Emma, 7, with her mother's curls and a laugh like wind chimes, and little Theo, 5, who collected fossils like they were secrets, and a husband, Marcus, who looked like he stepped out of a J.Crew catalog. We had it all: private schools, summer sails on the lake, and charity galas where I schmoozed with venture capitalists who called me the future of mind-body healing. But Marcus? He was the shadow in the frame. Charming on the surface, a viper underneath. I'd met him at a TEDx event in Austin, back when I was still hustling for seed funding. He was a rising star at Blackwood and Associates, a cutthroat law firm that specialized in corporate espionage cases. Ironic, given what came later. We bonded over IP theft horror stories. He promised to protect my patents, and I fell for the knight in shining armor act. 5 years in, and the cracks showed: late nights at the office, whispers on calls he took in the garage, and that one time I found a receipt for a hotel in Evanston that wasn't ours. The betrayal hit like a freight train on the night of the gala. Hale Tech's big reveal: the Neuralink prototype, a headset that could simulate empathy transfers, letting therapists swap emotional states with patients to accelerate healing. The demo went flawless. Investors buzzed like bees on Red Bull. Marcus was there, arm around my waist, toasting my genius. But as the champagne flowed, he slipped something into my flute. I remember the bitter aftertaste, the room tilting like a funhouse mirror. Just a relaxer, babe, he murmured, his breath hot against my ear. You've earned it. I woke up strapped to a gurney in a nondescript warehouse on the outskirts of the city, the air thick with antiseptic and rust. My head throbbed, vision blurry. A man in a lab coat loomed over me, Dr. Harlan Crow, the shadowy neuroscientist I'd hired as a consultant 6 months prior. His eyes were cold, calculating, like a surgeon pricing out a kidney. Valentina, he said, voice smooth as oiled silk. Welcome to the real test. That's when they told me about the swap. Not some hocus-pocus soul transference, but a weaponized version of my own tech. The Neuralink wasn't just for therapy. Crow had twisted it into a full-spectrum identity hijack. Electrodes burrowed into my scalp, syncing my neural patterns with Elena's, the janitor who'd been cleaning our offices for years, invisible as dust. She was desperate, drowning in debt from her husband's deportation. Kids back in Mexico she hadn't seen in 2 years. Crow preyed on that, promising her a new life if she volunteered for the trial. In minutes, it was done. My memories flooded into her mind, her fears into mine. But it wasn't a clean swap, it was a fracture. I retained fragments, Flashes of Emma's bedtime stories. Theo's sticky hugs, but my body?
Gone.
Elena's shell encased me now. Shorter.
Stockier.
Hands rough from bleach and betrayal. They dumped me in her cramped Pilsen apartment, with a forged eviction notice and a wallet holding $47. Meanwhile, in my skin, Elena, coached by Marcus and Crow, paraded as Valentina Hale, signing over Hale Tekka's assets, liquidating our savings, and confessing to fabricated embezzlement charges that Crow had planted in the books. The shock, it paralyzed me for days. I stared at the mirror, tracing scars that weren't mine, knife fights from Elena's youth in Juarez, a cesarean from a child she'd lost. My voice came out thicker, accented, a stranger's rasp. Calls to the cops? Dismissed as a delusional vagrant. My own lawyer, Marcus's golf buddy, filed for emergency custody, painting me, Elena, and my body as unstable, a fraud who'd stolen his wife's identity. The mansion? Auctioned off to cover debts I never incurred. The kids? Whisked away to Marcus's family estate in the suburbs, where Emma cried for mommy and Theo asked why Valentina smelled like cheap perfume. Rage built slow, like Lake Michigan ice. I scavenged Elena's life, her bilingual Bible, dog-eared with pleas to saints, faded photos of a life interrupted. But buried under the sink, in a shoebox of unpaid bills, was the first crack in their facade, a USB drive, unlabeled, holding encrypted files. Hacking it took nights on a library computer. Elena's login for the office, still active. What I found? Emails between Marcus and Crow, plotting a swap as Project Eclipse, a black market tool for the elite to vanish debts, evade trials, swap into cleaner lives. Marcus wasn't just complicit. He was the architect, driven by gambling losses he'd hidden. Losses that threatened to bankrupt us. Crow, the puppet master, a disgraced surgeon with ties to big pharma, saw dollar signs in weaponizing the tech. My first act of revenge was small, surgical. I posed as Elena, slipped into Blackwood and Associates after hours. The night guard knew her face. She emptied his trash bins twice a week. In Marcus's office, I planted a bug, cheap, from a spy shop in Little Village. His calls became my nightly ritual, boasts to Crow about the smooth handover, pillow talk with his mistress, a junior associate named Lila, who'd been warming his bed since Austin. Valentina's ghosting us, he laughed once. That spic's probably panhandling by now. Controversial? Hell yes. I debated it in the dead of night. Was I any better? Stealing Elena's body to claw back mine? But survival's a bitch. And betrayal's worse. I reached out to Elena, trapped in my old shell, drug-compliant in a rehab facility Crow owned. Our minds synced in echoes, she whispered through dreams, begging release. They promise citizenship, she sobbed in my head. For my boys. I broke her out 3 weeks in. Dressed as a nurse, stolen scrubs from a laundromat, I wheeled her into the parking lot, her eyes wide in my face, my terror in hers. We ditched the van in a scrapyard, split up, her to a safe house in Berwyn, me to dig deeper. The courts loomed, divorce hearing in 2 months, custody battle stacked against us. Marcus had the judge in his pocket, a Reagan-era hack with a grudge against entitled tech brothers, but I had a plan, dark and twisting, expose the swap, but not before making them bleed. The hook sank deeper when I tailed Lila to a dive bar in Wicker Park. She was drunk, spilling secrets to a bartender who doubled as a PI. Marcus says Valentina's dead to the world, she slurred. But what if she comes back? That body. It's not right. I cornered her in the alley. Elena's switchblade at her throat, not to cut, but to carve truth. Tell me everything, I hissed, my borrowed accent thickening with fury. She cracked like cheap glass, the swap's permanence. Crow's failsafe implant that could fry neural links if tampered with. And the kicker, Emma had drawn a picture at school. Mommy with brown eyes, slipped into a counselor's file. That night, I wept for the first time since the warehouse. Not for the mansion's marble counters or the Tesla in the garage, but for the bedtime ritual stolen, the trust shattered. Revenge wasn't justice, it was reclamation. And as sirens wailed distant in the Chicago night, I vowed they'd pay in inches until my skin was mine again. Months blurred into a haze of shadows and stolen Wi-Fi signals, each day a grind against the machine that had ground me down. Elena and I communicated in fragments, burner phones, coded texts via a migrant rights app she'd used back home. She was holding up in my old body better than I expected. The implants amplified her resilience, turning her quiet suffering into a quiet storm. I see your children in dreams, she texted once. They ask for Valentina. I tell them stories in Spanish. It confuses them. Guilt gnawed at me like termites in drywall. Had I dragged her deeper into this hell? But she insisted, you gave me power. Now I use it. My days as Elena Vesquez were a masterclass in invisibility, the kind America reserves for its underclass. I scrubbed floors in high-rises by day, blending into the fluorescent drudgery, ears tuned to gossip from execs who didn't see the help. By night, I was a ghost in the system, forging IDs at a print shop in Humboldt Park, bribing a hacker kid from UIC with Elena's last savings for backdoor access to Hailteca's servers. When I uncovered their twisted the knife, Crow hadn't just hijacked my company, he'd patented the swap tech under a shell corp. Eclipse Dynamics, with Marcus as silent partner. The first client, a Wall Street fraudster who'd body-jumped into a trust fund kid's shell to dodge SEC charges. My life's work, perverted into a playground for the guilty. The decisions got uglier from there. Controversial doesn't cover it. I crossed lines that would make a mob snitch blanch. First target, Lila. She was the weak link, ambitious but sloppy. Her Instagram a trail of breadcrumbs from yoga retreats to yacht parties with Crow. I catfished her as a potential investor, using Elena's face via deepfake filters on a sketchy app. We met at a coffee shop in the Loop, steam rising like unspoken sins. I hear Eclipse is revolutionary, I said, sipping black drip that burned my tongue, Elena's tongue, calloused from biting back Spanish curses. Lila leaned in, eyes gleaming. It's more than that. It's absolution. Over lattes. She spilled. The implant's override code, hidden in Crow's personal vault at the firm. But the price? She wanted in a swap of her own, into some starlet's body for a shot at Hollywood. I laughed, a hollow bark that echoed Elena's cynicism. You're already stolen goods, I said, sliding a napkin with a question. Who betrayed who first? Her face paled. She bolted. But not before I slipped a tracker into her Birkin. Tracking led to the mansion, my mansion, now Marcus's bachelor pad of excess. Party lights pulsed through the windows, bass thumping like a migraine. I scaled the back fence, Elena's wiry strength a godsend, and crouched in the azaleas, watching through binoculars. There he was, Marcus, in my skin, no, Elena's in mine, laughing with Lila by the infinity pool. My body, lithe and commanding, moved with an awkward grace that screamed imposter. Theo splashed nearby, oblivious, while Emma sat rigid on a lounger, sketching furiously. My heart cracked open like cheap pottery. I couldn't hold back. Slipping through the side door, janitor's code still worked. I ghosted upstairs to the master suite. The air smelled of my Chanel No. 5. Mixed with Marcus's cologne, a nauseating cocktail. In the nightstand, amid silk ties and Viagra, was the dusty envelope. Faded manila, sealed with wax that had cracked like old promises. Addressed to me, Valentina Hale, from my late father. Postmarked 2018, the year before his heart attack. Marcus must have hidden it, fearing what it held. Trembling, I tore it open. Inside, a letter, yellowed, and a thumb drive. Dad's scrawl, Val. If you're reading this, I've lost the fight. But you deserve the truth about your mother. She didn't leave us, she was taken. Blackwood buried it. Protect yourself. The drive, scanned on a library PC later. It held case files. Mom's disappearance in '95 wasn't a runaway, it was a cover-up. She'd been a whistleblower against Blackwood's early forays into unethical neuroexperiments, precursors to Eclipse. Dad, a PI, had evidence, but they silenced her, framing it as abandonment. Marcus's firm, built on those bones. The revelation hit like vertigo. My whole life a lie. My marriage a noose tied by ghosts. Marcus knew, hell, he'd courted me to bury it deeper. Rage morphed to something primal, not just revenge, but restitution. I forwarded copies to Elena, who was infiltrating from inside, posing as reformed Valentina at Blackwood Mixers. Her text buzzed. He suspects. Lila talks too much. Climax brewed in the custody hearing prep. Marcus filed motions to declare Elena Vasquez a threat, citing delusions of identity theft. The judge, Harlan Hank Whitaker, Crow's old frat brother, rubber-stamped it. But I had leverage now, the bug recordings, Lila's confessions, and Dad's files. The controversial call? Leak it anonymously to a podcaster. Cheetown Conspiracies, a fringe show with a rabid following. They aired it raw, Marcus's voice, slurring about swapping the bitch out before she digs up the past. Listeners exploded. Hale swap trended. Protesters picketed Blackwood, calling it corporate body snatching. Fallout was swift. Delicious. Crow went underground, holing up in a Naperville safe house. Marcus doubled security at the mansion, but paranoia cracked him. He fired Lila, who retaliated by ghosting him evidence dumps to the FBI. Elena and I synced for the reverse, a midnight rendezvous at the warehouse, where it began. She arrived in my body, gaunt but fierce, driving my old Audi like she owned it. The implant, she said, voice mine but laced with her fire. We remove it together. The procedure was DIY hell, mirrors, vodka for sterilization, Elena's sewing kit for precision. I guided her hands, my hands, through the scalp incision, nerve screaming as we excised the chip. Blood welled, but no gore fest, just sweat and sobs. Two women stealing back souls. As it died, sparks flying into a bucket, our minds realigned. Flashes, her Juarez childhood, my Harvard debates. We're hybrids now, she whispered. Stronger. But tension coiled tighter. Marcus caught wind. Hired PIs tailed us, one cornering me in a Jewel Osco lot. Stay away from the hearing, lady, he growled, reeking of Old Spice. I need him. Elena's street smarts kicking in, and fled to a motel. There, plotting the courtroom ambush, I faced the darkest decision: testify as Elena, risk deportation for her real self, or burn it all, expose the swap live. Consequences be damned. Emma's drawing burned in my pocket, brown eyes. A mother's plea. For her, I'd torch the world. The night before court, sirens wailed again, closer this time. Crow was mobilizing. Whispers of a cleanup hit the dark web. I armed myself, not guns. American taboo, but truth as shrapnel. Elena texted, "Tomorrow, we end it." For our ghosts. Sleep evaded me. Visions of Mom's smile, stolen, like mine. Dawn broke gray over the lake, and I stepped into the fray. Envelope clutched like a grenade. Courtroom air hung heavy as a storm cloud, the kind that promises thunder but delivers only drizzle until it doesn't. December 15th, 2023, Cook County Family Division, Room 14B. A beige box of bureaucracy where dreams went to die under fluorescent buzz. I sat in the back row. Elena's bulk squeezed into a donated suit from a shelter, the dusty envelope a weight in my lap. Up front, Marcus, in the shell of me, poised and porcelain, testified with crocodile tears, spinning yarns of my descent into madness. Valentina's always been brilliant, he lied, voice cracking just so. But the pressure. She cracked. Started claiming body swaps. Like some sci-fi delusion. The gallery murmured. Whitaker nodded sagely. Gavel poised like a guillotine. Elena, my body. Her fire sat beside his lawyer, playing the part of broken wife. She'd prepped for weeks. Therapy sessions, real ones. Pro bono from a migrant clinic. Affidavits swearing rehabilitation. But her eyes, my eyes, darted to me a silent signal, now. The bombshell dropped mid-cross. Lila, subpoenaed as a character witness, took the stand. She'd flipped after the podcast, trading testimony for immunity. It wasn't delusion, she said, voice steady despite the tremor in her hands. Marcus orchestrated it. With Dr.
Crow. They
swapped her. Gasps rippled. Whitaker banged for order. Marcus's face, my face, drained to ash. Objection. Slander. But I was already moving, envelope in hand, weaving through the aisle like a specter from a noir flick. Your Honor, my voice, Elena's rasp, cut the chaos. Bailiff lunged, but Whitaker waved him off. Curiosity piqued. State your business. Ms. Vasquez. I thrust the envelope forward. This is from Edward Hale, deceased. Evidence that Blackwood and Associates covered up a murder in 1995, my mother's. And Marcus knew. He married me to silence it. The room ignited. Reporters scribbled furiously. Phones smuggled despite the signs. I spilled it all, the swap. Project Eclipse. The USB horrors. Elena rose. Sinking our tale. I was promised a new life. They gave me hers, stole mine. Twist hit like a sucker punch. As forensics team swarmed, FBI tipped by Lila's dumps. Crow burst in, wild-eyed, flanked by two goons in ill-fitting suits. It's a lie, he bellowed, waving a tablet. Valentina Hale is the fraud, planted evidence. Identity theft, projections flickered, doctored footage of me, Elena, pre-swap, confessing to embezzlement in a dingy motel. The gallery bought it. Whispers turned to jeers. Marcus smirked, whispering to his counsel. Panic clawed my throat. Had we miscalculated? Crow's implant override. He triggered it remotely. A fail-safe we'd missed. Elena gasped on stage, clutching her temple, our temple, as neural feedback surged. Visions assaulted us both, fragmented horrors. Mom's final moments. Strangled in a Blackwood retreat, Dad's futile investigation. But in the maelstrom, a reversal. Elena's memories unlocked a hidden code, buried in her subconscious from the initial sync. La Virgin, she murmured, the saint's prayer, a mnemonic Crow never scrubbed. She recited it, voice mine but unbreakable.
And the link shattered.
Projections glitched, Crow's tablet bricked. Bailiffs tackled him as truth serum hit the air, real evidence from the envelope's drive, wirelessly beamed to the court's projector by the hacker kid, monitoring from a van outside. Files scrolled. Mom's autopsy faked suicide. Blackwood payoffs. Eclipse's client list, senators, CEOs. A disgraced evangelist. Marcus lunged for the stand, but Elena sidestepped. My body's grace, now hers truly. You took everything, she said, soft as a dirge. Now give it back. The reversal gutted them. Marcus confessed in chambers, plea deal crumbling, admitting the gambling. The fear of Dad's legacy exposing his firm's rot. Crow? He lawyered up. But the feds descended like locusts, raiding Eclipse sites nationwide. Controversial fallout. Headlines screamed body swap scandal rocks Chicago elite, sparking debates on ethics boards. Congressional hearings on neuroprivacy. Protesters chanted outside, some for me, the stolen mom, others decrying the tech as playing God. Elena faced icy scrutiny. I testified on her behalf, arguing the swap made her more American than blood. The ending? Not tidy. Not Hollywood. Custody granted joint, me and Elena. Hybrids raising Emma and Theo in a modest Oak Park rental. The mansion's proceeds frozen in litigation. Marcus got 10 years for conspiracy. Crow life for manslaughter. Mom's case reopened. But the twist lingered. In quiet moments, I felt Elena's echoes, her grief for lost boys in Mexico. Now U.S. Visas in motion. And her? She kept flashes of my boardrooms, launching a nonprofit for swap victims. Reclaim minds. Happy? Tragic? You decide. I reclaimed my skin through a reverse procedure, voluntary. Ethical this time at a Johns Hopkins lab. But pieces stayed swapped, her resilience in my veins. My ambition in hers. We meet monthly. Coffee in Pilsen. Trading stories like trading cards. Was it worth it? She asked once, stirring sugar into black brew. I thought of Emma's laugh. Theo's fossils whole again. If scarred. The revenge? It was the hook. But the truth. That's the line. Outside. Chicago wind howled, carrying whispers of new betrayals. In America, the dream's always half-nightmare. But we'd clawed ours back, one controversial inch at a time. As for the dusty envelope, framed on our mantel, a talisman. Dad's words etched inside, fight dirty if you must.
Val.
The powerful always do. And damn if he wasn't right.